Let's talk now to Michael O'Hanlon. He is a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, and he's an expert in American national security policy. He joins us now live, also from Washington. Michael, thanks so much for joining us. I want to begin by asking you about Russia. And a number of analysts, as you know, have said that Russia has been the power broker of sorts in this conflict. So how have the dynamics changed given Turkey's direct military involvement in this war now?
Well, I think Turkey is a power broker as well. And there's not much doubt that it's going to take more than one outside player working in lockstep, or at least avoiding direct confrontation with each other, to have any kind of an outcome that we can live with. Because if there are multiple outside players supporting their own proxies, we're likely just to see an intensification of proxy war. And so when Russia intervened last fall, that certainly made a difference for Assad, may have rescued him, but it did not end the war. And now, with Turkey's intervention, we're seeing a change in battlefield dynamics. ISIS has lost an outlet to the world. Also, the Kurds have been served notice. They will not be allowed to create a single large contiguous zone within Syria. And those are two facts that are important. But none of this is going to, by itself, produce an outcome, either the defeat of ISIS or an end to the war. So Turkey's important, Russia's important, the United States is important, the Gulf countries are important, but as long as we're all pursuing different agendas, what we're going to see are tactical changes that do not add up necessarily to a fundamental strategic effect.
That's not a particularly optimistic outlook. Let me ask you if you think Turkey had a choice but to engage in this conflict via its on-the-ground strategy that it's employing now.
I don't have any big issues with what Turkey's done, and I think it might even help on balance. I do think it's very regrettable that Turkey and its own Kurdish population are now at such loggerheads, and that President Erdogan and Turkish Kurds are back in a state of essentially open conflict, and therefore any kind of Kurdish zone in Syria makes Erdogan extremely nervous. I think this is all very regrettable, and I would hope that those situations could change, because I believe we're ultimately going to need to see the creation of an autonomous zone or two for the Kurds in Syria, as well as an autonomous zone for the Alawites and Christians, and then a couple of shared zones in some of the main cities of the country in some kind of a future confederation. To me, that's the only way you can solve this war, because we are all saying President Assad must go, but we don't have the power to drive him out of office, and he's not gonna go under current battlefield dynamics. So as long as we make this about Assad staying president of a strong, centrally run Syria or not, we're going to have an unending war. But if we can accept the idea of confederation, then I believe Assad might wind up accepting rule in his sector. And then we could create a new, weak central government. The Kurds could have their own sectors, maybe two of them in the north. However, right now, Turkey and Erdogan would probably not accept this concept, and that could be a big problem, a big obstacle down the road. So I don't have any issues with the immediate Turkish tactical intervention, but I do worry about the overall state of Turkish-Kurdish relations for what comes next.
Turkish-Kurdish relations, but if you can, please elaborate on U.S.-Turkey relations based on the Kurdish issue and their conflict right now, with the U.S. supporting the YPG, which Turkey considers the wing of a terrorist organization that threatens its very security.
Well, right. That's the one problem between Turkey and the United States, essentially. We've had other issues as well, because for the first part of the war, President Erdogan did not really want to acknowledge that ISIS was a big threat. And for the whole war, we Americans have not been very serious about devoting many resources to the conflict. And so we had a lot of other reasons why we had specific disagreements along the way. But the only fundamental strategic difference we have is about the future of the Kurds and about the role of the YPG in this particular campaign. And those are big stumbling blocks, as you well know. On every other issue that I can see, Turkey and the United States essentially have the same interests in this conflict. But the Kurdish piece is so crucial that we're going to have to figure out some way to compromise on that in order to move forward. And I think Turkey could, for example, ask the United States to help pressure the YPG not to support PKK terrorists on Turkish soil and to participate in monitoring of the movement of weapons and people across the border to make sure that any help we would give to a Kurdish zone in Syria would be contingent on the Kurds themselves not supporting the PKK inside of Turkey. We should be able to find some ways for the United States to make some promises to help Turkey with this problem. And in turn, I think Turkey is going to have to allow for a greater Kurdish role in the future governance of Syria than it might prefer.
Okay. Michael O'Hanlon, thank you so much.